Hi there, everyone. My name is Steen Kirby, and we're back for another edition of the Courtside Videocast, brought to you by Tennis Atlantic and the Grandstand. And here again, we have my co-host Courtney Massey of Tennis Atlantic, and also Niall, Clarke, and Joe Craven of Tennis Atlantic, the same excellent team that we had last week to discuss the Indian Wells draw. And this week, of course, we're going to be talking about the action in Indian Wells because it's been going on now for a week in the California desert, and the women are down to the best of 8, and currently actually matches are ongoing, so it'll be less than that by the time we finish. But and the men are down to well, they were down to 16, but now they're down to 14 because there's been a couple of results with that action today as well. So we're going to go through the action this week and then talk about a little bit ahead. So I'll just hand it off to Courtney because she wanted to get the first topic going.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about Ernest Gulbis. Curious case of Ernest Gulbis. Ernest has been in a slump in 2015, only winning one match, which came this week in the second round, but then he lost the next round to Mannarino, so he wasn't able to really get any kind of a streak going. Against Mannarino, Ernest started off slow, as he typically does, with a break on his first service game. Luckily, he was able to save another break point to prevent a 3-0 deficit. He was able to break Mannarino back to even it out, but ultimately, Ernest wasn't consistent enough. His unforced error count was too high, and Mannarino was just solid start to finish. The thing with Ernest, at the end of 2014, Ernest struggled with a lingering shoulder injury, as well as getting sick and put on antibiotics at the start of the season. Since then, he hasn't been able to get back into decent form. Excuse me. He said recently that the shoulder injury affected him mentally a lot, and I noticed during the second set he was touching at his shoulder. I have to just assume it's mentally at this point. And naturally, as I said last week, his confidence is very low, and I'm hoping that with one singles win here and a couple doubles wins, it's enough to kind of get his mojo working and back on track and hopefully better the next coming weeks. But the really big thing, the biggest change in the Gulbis camp is the split with 3-year coach Gunther Bresnik. Gunther has been coaching both Gulbis and youngster Dominic Thiem. There hasn't been a whole lot of information to come out about the split, aside that it was on good terms. I personally love Gunther. I'm totally biased because I met him and he's just a wonderful guy, so I'm going to miss him. And I hope I still see him around with Dominic. I assume they're still working together. I didn't hear anything on that. So you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But the split itself, I guess, doesn't really surprise me because Gulbis has been criticized before by commentators and fans for changing coaches many times in his career. But I think it's something that Ernest needs to do. For him, 3 years is a very long relationship, and he is someone who needs to change things up from time to time, make things fresh, have new eyes. I think near the start of his coaching relationships, he tends to gain the most consistency on court and is able to get those titles. Gulbis says he wants to take his time in deciding on a new coach to bring into his team. He says he's older now, he's been on tour for a long time, he understands what he needs to do and how to train and what to work on, so he isn't in a rush to bring someone in right away. He said he's looking at multiple coaches, including someone in Miami and Monte Carlo, but he hasn't revealed any names, so I'm not sure who the prospects are. This week, however, he's had Mats Merkel around his camp at his practices and matches. I can only assume he is one of the potential coaches Ernest is looking at. I don't know like I said, I don't know who the other prospects are, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of Mats Merkel. Ernest seems to like the Austrian-German coaches. Mats is a young guy, and he seems to be playful, which is very important when you're working with Gulbis. Everyone in his team is comedic and playful, and they're able to both work hard and have a good time. Mats this week has been making little videos for a German website, and I guess was joking about how the ladies love Ernest, and Ernest knows how to please the ladies. So he certainly fits the bill personality-wise. And, I'm certainly interested to see the other names in contention and what develops for Ernest this year, both in his team and on the court. So you guys can comment if you have any comments.
Sure. I mean, I would say that, I watched the match against Adrian Mannarino. I don't think the one against Camino Trevera was actually on a TV court, but he won that one pretty comfortably. But I mean, in that match, it's just a matter of feel and consistency, as you mentioned. And he just wasn't good. I mean, I pulled up the stats real quick. I mean, he only generated one break point the entire match. He only won 24% of the return points. I mean, just generally not consistent enough to be able to generate breakpoint chances, while Manarino had 8 of them. And Manarino's the type of player, again, he's very streaky and feel-oriented as well. He actually had a good week this week, and even though he just lost to Murray in the round of 16, he's probably going to be in his career high ranking, I believe, with the round of 16 showing. He'll be, I think, either in the top 30 or very, very close to it. So I mean, it wasn't necessarily a bad loss. He only lost 4-4 to an improving player that's on the rise, and that's a lot better than some of his other losses this year by all means, like the one to Istomin and Dubai. But I think the thing is for me is that when I see a player like this that struggled consistently, and they have the ability, but it's a mental block in some way. Could be a shoulder injury, could just be they just don't feel it out there. I think. Ricky Diamond tweeted out at one point, just before Indian Wells, that Gullis was talking about nothing was working in practice, and he just couldn't. It was like he said that he couldn't get his rhythm, and the practices were worse than the matches were. So I mean, it's even though the improvements there, that to me suggests just a lack of confidence and a mental block, not any physical problem or something like that. And I just know with Gulbis, before he made that run, to get himself back in the top 20 after I think he fell out of the top 100 or the top 80 at least, he went back to the Challenger Tour. It wasn't necessarily that he had great results on the Challenger Tour, but he went back to the Challenger Tour. And I just think for any player, be it Sam Querrey or Gulbis or some of the other guys we saw Istomin do that, and some others, going back to the Challenger Tour, even Manarino did that. Speaking of a player that we were just talking about. And it seems to me like if he were to do that and go back to Europe and get some confidence, it would do him a lot of good. And I just wonder why he's continuing. I understand he wants to keep his ranking up, but when he knows he has all these points to defend coming up with, of course, the end of French and the clay court season, why he doesn't go ahead and, number one, get on clay, which is a surface he seems to be more comfortable with for the time being, and number two, get some confidence back and be able to play some, 170 in the world, 125, something like that, win a few matches, and find his form. So to me, it's just, in a way, these players, they make choices, and sometimes they may not be the best for their long-term career, even though I know, everybody always wants to play at the highest level and test themselves and all that kind of thing. But to be able to play, 4 or 5 matches in a tournament and play doubles and singles with a challenger where he can at least maybe make the semis and make a run versus basically having 2 singles matches or 1 singles match in a tournament, and all of a sudden he's got to get on an airplane and travel somewhere else. So that's just my thought about it.
Yeah.
Go back to the Challenger Tour.
About the Challenger Tour, he did drop out of the top 100 and had to go on the Challenger Tour, and that helped fire him up because he was so angry that he was back on the Challengers, and looking at the rankings and seeing players that he feels like he's better than, up there, and he's not, and that fired him up. But at the same time, Ernest, he definitely hates the Challenger Tour, and the thing with Ernest is sometimes he thinks too much when he's on court, and he kind of, when he's playing players that he knows he can beat, he kind of gets out of his head a little bit, and he loses focus, and he ends up losing the match to players he shouldn't be losing to. So in a way, sometimes that's risky doing that because it could actually hurt his confidence, because sometimes he can kind of lose his focus and get off track. But also that was years ago as well, so I don't know if it's the same now. But he definitely needs as much on-court action as he possibly can, because he has been saying that he hasn't really felt it. He hasn't been feeling the ball very well. So I think the more matches he gets under his belt, the better he'll be and more informed he'll be.
I think the Steen makes a good point about the Challenger Tour. I think it would actually be quite a big help for him, because as we saw when he played Jimeno Trevor, I think it's said like that. It was an easy win for Gulbis, and I know Jimeno Trevor likes the clay more than the hard courses. it still suits him a bit because it's a slow hard court. And the fact that Gulbis beat him quite easily says to me that if he did drop down to the Challengers Tour, he'd have a lot of success because playing guys ranked more or less 100 or below that, it's going to be quite easy for him to get the wins under his belt, build up some confidence. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he went on a stretch of playing challenges and he won them with quite some comfort, like Sam Querrey did last year in. I can't remember what month it was. It was September.
Yeah, it was like August, I think. Yeah, July, August.
Yeah, around that time, and that helped Querrey quite a lot to build some confidence and finish the year quite strongly. So if Gulbis was to do the same, I think it'd do a similar thing to him. It's just
and the thing is, the difference with the play at that level is simply this. Because I've heard players talk about it themselves. The difference between challengers and ATP is this: is that if you you start making mistakes or you lose your head in a challenger match, a lot of times the people that you're playing will give you the opportunity to get back into the match. They'll make mistakes. They'll give you that opening. They'll lose their cool as well. Versus in the ATP, as we just talked about with that Manarino match, 2 breaks of serve and Gulbis was already done. I mean, there was he didn't really have a lot of room for error to kind of lose himself and then come back. Versus playing 175 in the world, he might go down a break, but can he get the break back? Most likely, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I would mention, and I know it's going to be tough, but something really does need to be done about that forehand. I know it's tough to do at the level. It's something he's been used to playing that forehand for a couple of years ago. Now I know he did rework another style of forehand a couple of years back, but this current forehand, I mean, it was working a lot better last year, and even then it wasn't the best of shots. It didn't hold up well. But when I was watching the match versus Manarino, it was just really shocking. He can't generate as much power from it anymore. It's getting a lot of unforced errors from that wing, and I know he's got a really good backhand. His backhand, when it's firing, it's world class. But the forehand is the most important shot in tennis outside of the serve. If you're not hitting your forehand well, there's going to be trouble because people just hit to your forehand. It's breaking down, and he can't afford to do that. It's a rally shot, isn't it? It's basically the rally shot, forehand to forehand. And if he's not able to hit that as good as he could in the past, he's gonna struggle. So I'm wondering if it's going to be something he's going to look into, or at this moment in time, it's just a matter of lack of confidence. But it needs, because from what I saw in the past, the old forehand he had was quite good, and I'm not sure why he reworked it, but for whatever reason it was reworked. It worked for a while, but now it's not giving him any success at all. So when he gets a new coach, he needs to sit down with them, I think, and he needs to look into making some changes. And I'm not saying he has to largely adjust it, because it's in his DNA now. It's something he's used to. He can't just simply change it overnight, but it's something that needs to be looked at. How can they make it better? How can they make it hold up more? And that's just something that I feel needs looking at.
I agree, and then just kind of switching the conversation, we'll talk about a player that was really struggling this year and actually did find some momentum well, and that's Robin Haase. He actually beat Stan Wawrinka, Niall's favorite player, in a very, very shocking upset, 6-3, 3-6, 6-3. And this was really a remarkable match. I don't think anybody really expected it to be, of any real high quality. And Haase, of course, beat the qualifier Alex Ball in the previous round, but he had not won a match all season. He was one of the few. I believe he may actually have been the last one, an ATP regular player that had not won an ATP match on the season. He was 0-6, I believe, going into the tournament. And Wawrinka really played poorly, probably similar to like he did against Tatsuma Ito in Tokyo last fall. That's what that match reminded me of, I would say. First set, he got broken. Kind of midway through the set, lost the set. Second set came back, and then the third, everybody thought, okay, you know, this is an elite class player. He's going to recover and finish this match off with a small hiccup. But again, he got to, I believe, 3-all, and then Hassa broke, and then held server the rest of the way. And really, just the main thing here was Hassa was very consistent from the ground. His ground strikes were solid. He wasn't trying to force anything. He wasn't going for too many balls. He was just simply moving and returning and hitting with enough pace to bother Wawrinka, and that generated enough errors, I would say, to give him the edge. And Wawrinka just didn't have it. He seemed listless out there, and you know, as I said, you know, against Ito probably put a better match than Hassa did in terms of shot making, but it just seems like Wawrinka seems to be much more prone to these slip-ups in form and confidence compared to some of the other elite players. I mean, Murray's done it, of course, and we all know Nadal has done it relatively recently. But as a general rule, it just seems like it's not even a matchup thing, and it's not like Djokovic against a big server where it's just a difficult matchup. It just seems like Wawrinka will get out on court and sometimes be overconfident or wake up on the wrong side of the net or something, and he'll just totally just lose it out there and play more like his formerly top 30 self versus his new top 10 self. So do you have any thoughts on that match, specifically Niall, I guess, since you're a Wawrinka watcher?
Well, to be honest, I can say that I didn't expect Stan to lose this one. I would say that the third round would have been tricky against Klizan and Rosol before the tournament, but to say that Stan would lose to Hassa in the second round, I just found it a bit shocking. I'm a keen Stan follower, and I believe that he's one of the best players to watch on the tour, but he is awfully erratic, and he can lose to anyone on any given day, and I think it was just one of those days where he couldn't find his first serve, he couldn't find the court with his big weapons, and Hassa was consistent enough to take advantage of that and not choke to a superior player. I mean, Stan is prone to these sort of results, and he will be throughout the rest of his career. He will lose randomly to players in big events, but at the end of the day, he shouldn't be losing to Robin Haas, and he should be really disappointed with the way he performed in that match.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? And if not, I'll transition the topic.
Nope, I think you can change topics.
And so next we're just going to talk about the Australians. I would say the Americans and the Australians as a group both have had a really good tournament. We've seen the emergence of Tanazi Kokkinakis, who has made the round of 16, and then also the resurgence of Bernard Tomic, who's been very consistent all year, and is also in the round of 16 and actually plays Kokkinakis. And then last but not least, of course, is Nick Kyrgios, the very recognizable, very showman-like player, and he fell to Grigor Dimitrov and actually injured his ankle in the process. And so all those matches were solid. I'll start kind of looking at Kyrgios and Dimitrov. I thought the interesting thing is this was a very high-quality match, something I was anticipating all tournament long, to be honest with you, and it didn't disappoint in the sense that both players definitely brought a lot of power and quality ground strokes to the table and really put their shot-making prowess on display. The main thing is Kyrgios probably should have won the match. I would say after the first set, he was the better player. But, you know, unfortunately, as luck would be, he went down. He was actually broke for 5-4 in the third set, but in the process of breaking, he fell and injured his ankle. But what happened is when he injured his ankle, originally he called the trainer, he went over the chair, and it was a changeover, so that was the appropriate thing to do. And then when the trainer actually arrived on the court, Kyrgios waved him off and went ahead and said he was going to try to serve out the match. And then, as expected, due to what turned out to be a ligament injury, basically it's going to keep him out 2 to 6 weeks, at least for the first part of the clay season, and certainly for Miami. He was unable to do so, of course. He actually did will his way into a third set tiebreak, but the result was kind of never in doubt, simply because unless Dimitrov had totally choked, Kyrgios was not really going to be able to properly move to be able to deal with the match.
Extremely bad for the game.
Yeah. And Dimitrov lost in the next round of Tommy Robredo. He's had some serious luck. I mean, going back like to Rotterdam where he played Matu and went down those match points, and then Matu, of course, had his mental breakdown and choked. So, I mean, in a way, it's Dimitrov still not had a good season. I still don't give him that much credit for the win because, again, it was just a lot of blind luck of being in the right place at the right time. But still, just kind of to Kyrgios, I haven't really had any reason to criticize him before now, but I just think that was a really rookie mistake, and it's just, if I'm his coach or I'm somebody on his team, I would have immediately sat down with him after the match and like, what are you doing? These medical professionals exist at this level for that purpose. It's a Masters, and it's not like it's the local features where they don't have a doctor. I mean, they have all these trained professionals there. You're a young player. You've already called the trainer for that matter. I don't think Dimitrov would have had a problem with him seeking medical attention because anybody would have done that in that situation. You fall and twist your ankle. That's what anybody's going to do.
Can I just say?
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually watched Kyrgios's press conference after the loss, and he was asked a question about the medical timeout, the situation surrounding that. And he was basically asked why he waved the trainer off, and basically what he said was the fact that the trainer took so long to arrive to the court was why he just carried on. And I know it's a rookie situation, you don't know what to do in there, but he mentioned the fact that he had momentum going into that game, or he'd just broken and he didn't want to get cooled down and lose his momentum, anything like that. And the fact that the trainer did take so long, I kind of have a bit of sympathy for him there because he's got all this momentum, he's just hurt himself, and you just want to get on with it. And the trainer took quite a while. Given that it's on a stadium court, I think it's a bit bad that the trainer did take that long to arrive to the court. And I think he probably should have been looked at, and he did say that if the trainer had arrived quicker onto the court, he would have been looked at. But then again, you don't know what the trainer could have done really, because even if he'd have fixed the ankle up for Nick to serve the match out, Nick would have been able to play. Wouldn't have been able to play the next match, though, would he? That's the thing. He wouldn't have been able to play the next match.
But he still would have got the points from the win, for one thing.
Yeah,
but
true,
he could have definitely taped his ankle by all means.
But I think it's a bit bad that the trainer did take that long to arrive.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I've been noticing one of the great things I think about one of the good things I have about the Indian Wells broadcast is that they seem to have mic'd the umpires and mic'd the chair area where the players are.
Yeah.
You can hear the interactions between the players and the umpires and medical officials, whatever it may be. And at least Lehani, I think a lot of the other umpires, when the medical person, the sports physician or whatever arrives pretty quickly, they've been commending them. There was a situation, I think, when the Jaziri and Simone had to take a bathroom break, I think, in their match in the third set, and it was on Stadium 3, and they mentioned that the bathroom was about 15 minutes away from the actual stadium for the players' bathroom. And they say, that kind of disrupted the flow and the rhythm of the match because, even if they were running, it was still going to take a little bit of a while for them to have the restroom break. So, I mean, that's more just a matter of the way the tournament's grounds have been designed and that kind of thing. And I think that falls on the Indian Wells and that falls on the ATP because certainly on a stadium court in the middle of a match, you should be expected to have a medical professional within 5 minutes of being on court, especially at a Masters event. I mean, we're not talking about a 250. You might have one of them. Now to have multiple doctors, and they should be
within 30 seconds of the court. They shouldn't be within 5 minutes.
Yeah, so that to me, that falls on the tournament organizer, that falls on the thing, but at the same time, it's still a rookie mistake.
Yeah,
At least you tape the ankle. And the thing is, on the TV broadcast, they showed the trainer guy was standing right on the entrance of the court. He was running onto the court, and then Kyrgios just waved his hand and said, "Okay, I'm going to go out there and serve." And Dimitrov was surprised as well, because Dimitrov was sitting down. I think he was retaping his racket or something, and he looked up and he's like, "Are you sure?" You know, like he was asking Kyrgios if he actually wanted to keep playing. He's like, "Yeah." So I mean, it's just one of those things like you see in other sports. Somebody gets a head injury or something like, I want to go back in the game, but then long term, you find out it was really legitimately damaging. So I just think it's just unfortunate these kids have to learn, but just kind of a disappointment. But at the same time, it was a good match. And kind of transitioning, did anybody happen to watch Kokkinakis and Tomic's matches?
I watched Kokkinakis versus Monaco. I watched the majority of that, and that was a really entertaining match from what I saw. I mean, I wasn't watching all of it. I was doing other stuff, but I was in and out of that match, and it was just a really, really impressive performance from Kokkinakis. I mean, the Aussie generation, they all have so much confidence and a bit of cockiness about them on court, and it's rather refreshing to see because there's a lot of can you say like PR bots that people don't want to break the rules, anything like that on tour. But the fact these guys are fearless, they'll take it to anyone who they face. They don't care whether it's the 100th ranked player in the world, the 20th ranked player, or the number 1 ranked players. They'll always stick it to them. They won't care. They'll play their game. They'll show the confidence and the cockiness, and that's why they're winning. That's why this young generation is experiencing better results at 18 and 19-year-old than the likes of Dimitrov, Raonic, and Nishikori did when they were the same age. And it's nice to see that tennis isn't in lost hands. You've got these guys coming up who are going to basically kick ass in the future, and the Kokkinakis against an experienced Monaco, slow hardcore. It's a tough match because Monaco gets all the balls back in play, and he was playing Monaco to his credit. I'm not Monaco's biggest fan, but Monaco was playing some fantastic tennis in the match as well, and I think was it Kokkinakis who saved match points? Was it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that was actually we'll a little bit later, but that was, I would say, definitely that was a really good match. And Kokkinakis has played well all week. He beat J.L. Struff in the first round, and then he beat Monaco. And let me just check who he beat in the second round. I'm not absolutely certain, but
Control F, Steen. Control F.
he beat Garcia Lopez in the third round. And that match was one of those. It was on court 4, which is they have a TV camera over there, but it's like on.
It's basically on for the WTA, and then
it's only on for the WTA or when they want it to be on for the ATP. So it's kind of a strange situation. You can get some coverage there, but it's not consistent.
No.
So that match was like in and out. You really didn't get to see too much of it, but I would say the Monaco Kokkinakis match. Monaco was definitely maybe a little bit more flashy. He had a lot of power, I would say. Yeah, that of course that amazing tweener lob, that once in a lifetime shot. But I mean, otherwise he had a ton of opportunities and played quite well. And of course Kokkinakis saved match point. But again, just Kokkinakis, kind of the same as Kyrgios, does not have any fear for his age and his level of experience. He doesn't have any fear about this stage or his more experienced opponent or anything like that. I mean, when under the pressure, whether you saw an Australian Open against Gaulis, whether you see it against Monaco, or some of the other matches he's played in Davis Cup against Rosal, just no fear. He doesn't doubt himself. He doesn't get down on himself. In that third set, I don't know if people may have missed this, but he was dizzy. In the second set, he lost the second set, and he was dizzy. And he was what called the position, and it might be heat stroke or whatever, and he took like a 2-minute break or whatever, but then he went back and it looked like, okay, people thought, okay, he's going to be done because he can't even really balance himself. But he stuck in it the whole time and he won that third set. He was exhausted after, but just really an incredible effort. And I don't think Kokkinakis gets enough credit because Kyrgios is probably more showy.
Yeah.
But to me, Kokkinakis is definitely going to win a Grand Slam and he'll be a top 10 player.
I think that I read a stat there's a first teenager to make the 4th round of the Masters. I don't know who it was, but for a very long time, I think the last time a teenager reached, or an 18-year-old reached the 4th round of a Masters was back in the early 2000s. I'm not
Yeah, it
sure
was
how
like
true
Murray
that
or
is.
somebody like that.
Yeah. But
I mean, it was definitely one of the players that's considered to be elite. I think it was Murray. It might have been Bardock or somebody, but it was
yeah,
one of the top tier players for
and I
sure.
think no teenager had done it in Indian Wells for a while. I think that might have been the stat, but it's just impressive that the way he's been playing and the way he's been carrying himself. I mean, both Garcia Lopez and Monaco, they're like they're I don't know how to describe it, um, like experienced players of the game. They're both veterans now, basically, and a lot of the time they just school these youngsters. But Kokinakis, tough free setter in both matches, where he's come through them both, and it's just like after losing the second set in both matches, it would have been easy for him to fall off, but he's held firm and he's done really well. And I think he played doubles with Murray. They've lost now, but
Yeah.
I think that experience playing doubles with Murray, spending a bit of time with him, will have helped as well. So it's really good for the guy.
Yeah,
Nice
I
to
mean,
see.
I definitely think that both Monaco and Garcia Lopez definitely gave it their best effort to try to play smart tennis and force him to go for too much. But solid forehand, solid return, and we'll see how he does against Tomic. Of course, Tomic beat him in Brisbane, I believe it was, at the start of the year. Actually, relatively easy. I think it was like 6-4, 6-2. But speaking of Tomic, a lot's been said about the young Aussies, but Tomic is still relatively young, and I don't think he's lost before a quarterfinal of an event, except for, of course, the AO. But all like the regular ATP events, I don't believe he's lost before the quarterfinals of any tournament he's entered. And he's really, he hasn't necessarily been flashing in the sense of winning a bunch of titles or even reaching finals, but he's been consistent. He hasn't had any, just awful matches where it's like, no tanking, no, Tomic the tank engine, none of that kind of thing. So in a way, he seems really improved, and he seems much more confident and focused. And maybe he's not going to be all he was hyped up to be when he was a teenager, but at a minimum, he's probably at least carved out proof that he can be a top 20 player and compete at this level and really, be a part of their Davis Cup team and anchor their growing contingent of talent, I would say. But I mean, it's a good match, and then he beat, of course, Ferrer in the round there. There was a great match between Ferrer and Dodig. They were just ripping shots at each other in the second round, I believe it was, and very very high quality encounter. And then Tomic did what Dodig couldn't, which was frustrate Ferrer. He was bothering with his junk ball shots all night, and Ferrer certainly gave it a good effort, but really, really good showing from Tomic, especially against an opponent that he had lost to in the previous round, no less. So that's the thoughts on that. And who do you think will win between Tomic and Kokonakis?
I think it's going to be Tomic, given the result last time. I think the experience of Tomic, he's got. I think the fact that Kokonakis and Kyrgios are rising within the game, two young Aussies. I mean, Tomic was hyped up when he was a youngster, and it sort of motivated him to do better as well in his career. So, and I think that what I was going to say, I think that Tomic is fresher. I don't think he's played any free setters over the tournament. I don't believe he has.
That's right. Three setters.
Whereas Kokonakis has played two back to back, and I think it's going to be like an emotional experience for him. So I think that Tomic should come through that, especially given he won the last meeting as well. But I think it could go either way. But I would put, if I had to put my money on the match, I'd put it on Tomic.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think it's easier to play an opponent you're familiar with, and obviously being Davis Cup teammates and having played each other in a tournament level and everything like that, they certainly know each other's games. And Kokinakas should be both emotionally and physically more tired than Tomic. So with that in mind, I mean, it should be either way going to be a great result for Australian tennis and for both either of those young guys to reach the quarterfinals and to get to play most likely Djokovic, but maybe Isner. So it should be interesting. And then we're actually going to let Niall talk a little bit about the women, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the American men and a couple other topics. But I'll let you take it away, Niall.
Where to start? The draw, especially the bottom half, has just become a huge mess. And with a lot of the top seeded players, Sharapova, Ivanovic, for example, have all been eliminated in the first couple of rounds, and it's been a bit of a surprise to many, and it leaves us potentially having a very surprise finalist or even potentially winner in coming up. So I believe once.
Yeah, I mean, I would say.
Let's get back on track now.
Yeah, go ahead, Jack. I was just going to say it's been quite interesting to see some of the new names for the women kind of emerge. We saw Caroline Garcia beat Ivanovic. We saw Tania Baczynski, I believe, won her 15th or 16th match in a row. She won 2 tournaments in Mexico and then continues to win here. We saw Lucia Sharanka, who I believe was a qualifier, upset Eugenie Bouchard. So it seems like with the women, certainly more parity, and we're kind of seeing with both the men's and women's draw, with some of these new names are starting to poke through in a way and kind of make themselves heard.
Yeah, the thing is with the WTA, and it's what I like about the WTA, is that there's so much unpredictability because there's, unlike the ATP, there isn't a distinguished gulf of, well, I would say gulf, but gap in talent between the top players and the rest of the field. I believe that the talent-wise, it's a lot closer. There's a lot of players who are ranked outside the top 10, outside the top 20, who could easily, if they peak fully, could do huge damage in the big events. And that's what I like about the WTA. And this week has just proven that even further, because you've seen the top players like Sharapova, like Ivanovic, like Bouchard get upset by players you wouldn't expect them to lose to, even though Ivanovic did lose to Garcia not too long ago. I mean, even if you look at Sharapova's loss, she lost to Flavia Pennetta, who is the defending champion, so one wonders how much of an upset that was. But the interesting part now is is who will make the final from that bottom half. You know, the Pennetta would probably be the favourite, being the defending champion. But you've also got Jankovic, you've also got Lazic, who beat Garcia. So there's a lot of interesting matches to look out for in the bottom half. If you go up to the top half, you'll see mainly the top players: Serena Williams, Simona Halep, still in the competition. I believe Simona won a match against Carlos Suarez Navarro. She was up 4-1 in the final set last time I checked. But if she hasn't pulled through, by now you probably would have expected it.
Yeah, she just won 6-1, 6-1 in the third.
So the top half, despite everything, has been a bit more, well organised, going according to the seeding better than the bottom half. You should expect Serena Williams and Simona Halep to meet each other in the semi-finals. I'm quite confident about that one. And you'd expect the winner to come between them two. But Serena, she's got to play Baczynski next, who, like you mentioned, is on a massive winning streak at the moment. And that's what can happen. She's shown a lot of promise way back in, say, 2009, did Buczynski, but she got injured and unfortunately just kind of fell off the face of the earth for a few years. But now she's come back and she's starting to fulfill that potential and she's climbing towards the top 20. So, I mean, it's not even set in stone that Serena Williams, one of the greatest players of all time, will win tonight when she meets Buczynski. So I just feel that it's been a very, very interesting tournament, and I believe that the winner will come from the top half, but it will definitely be interesting to see who emerges from the bottom half.
Did you have any thoughts about a couple of things that kind of came up, kind of arrayed around this tournament? Of course, the match against Niculescu, which was her first match since 2001 in Indian Wells, and she came back and had that really emotional moment. And I believe she said it was actually the biggest match of her career, kind of in her own mind. Maybe I wouldn't say that, but to her it was extremely important. And they're talking about a lot of people in the tennis community were in tears. I think Lindsay Davenport was one that was basically just very emotional about it, and did you watch that match? Did you have any thoughts about it, and kind of maybe getting that pressure or that burden off of Serena coming back to Indian Wells, where she had kind of such a bad experience a while ago? And then also a thing with Sloane Stephens. They asked her a question in the press about related to Serena, and they kind of have a well-known feud. And Sloane said something about how hateful a lot of the Serena fans are on Twitter to her, and she has to block so many of them because they take one thing and make it a big deal. And it was just kind of interesting to work about social media, because when they talk a lot about a lot of like the gamblers and things get very angry at the players and they lose money and they act really hateful and ridiculous. And but in this case, she was talking about Williams fan base, I guess, kind of doing the same thing. But for
it's not just Williams fan base. She's blocked me. She blocks everyone.
That's interesting. What did you do, Joe? I want to know.
Basically, she has this little quote thing. It's something like "I will what I want," and I think I replied. She made a tweet that said life is like a box of chocolates, and I replied saying, "Will this box of chocolates will what it wants?" And I got blocked for that. And I've seen other tennis fans, like the tennis community, get blocked for similar things on Twitter. So I mean there is some harsh and abusive fans out there, and I understand why she blocks them, but she is a bit full of herself in terms of like blocking people just for having a bit of a joke, and
she's the CM Punk of women's tennis, where he blocks everyone on Twitter.
She hasn't really got a reason to be blocking people and just making a bit of a joke out of this "will what I want" catchphrase. I mean, I can understand if people are abusing her, and I know that Serena Williams fans can get abusive and stuff like that, but some of the reasons are just a bit petty, to be honest.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna go on the other side and say, you know what? I think it's a shame when you have people that block very easily. And I know some celebrities that do it. Like I joke CM Punk, and I know Will Wheaton blocks a lot of people as well. But I think when you live so publicly, you do get a lot of shit tweets and stuff. And I think regardless, I think whatever their reasons be, I do kind of respect them a little bit and respect their privacy. And it's their Twitter, and if they want to block people, they can. And I understand people get a little excessive, but I don't hold a grudge against that with her, because I understand how sometimes you need to spring clean a little bit.
Absolutely.
But also, I wanted to mention Panetta, if I could. I wanted to mention her match against Sharapova last night. I don't watch a lot of WTA, but I caught the end of this match, and something kind of, she got emotional, and it was something that I kind of paid attention to with the commentators' comments and also in the press. And during the Panetta match, she got emotional. I believe it was in the first set, and she started to cry, and she kind of left the court for a few minutes and composed herself, and she got herself together, and she ended up winning that match in 3 sets. And
Did she leave during the match, or did she leave during a changeover?
no, I think it was during a changeover.
Okay, I was gonna say she just walked on court.
No. I mean, I didn't see the match, but I'm pretty sure it was like a bathroom break or something that she kind of took to just compose herself. She didn't just up and leave. I think it was during a changeover. But my point was that she just had to go and compose herself and come back. And afterwards, you know, commentators, and I'm sure press did as well. I didn't read the whole press. I just read comments on Twitter. They got really into her business about her emotions, and she kind of suggested on court that it dealt with something outside of tennis. And I think press and commentators and fans alike should kind of respect that a little more if it's outside of tennis. You know, it's not really our business. But regardless of whatever the reason her emotions came from, I really had respect for Panetta last night. You know, we all have things that hurt us emotionally, whether it be personally or in our careers. Whatever it is, we all have that inner struggle sometimes that comes out when we least want it to. And I think it shows her strength that when any player has something going on and is able to kind of still compose themselves, get themselves together, and fight for that win. And I think that shows a lot of heart and strength. And I just want to applaud her for that because I thought that was
much credit to her. I'm trying to think lots of. I think it was a match, the Australian Open between Elise. I think it was Cornet and Nicolescu some 2 or 3 years ago, and I think kind of a similar thing happened where Cornet was openly, I believe, crying on the court, and then kind of the same thing happened. And so I believe she came back to win, but kind of a similar thing to you described, that she got a lot of heat for it. And I think there were some people saying that it kind of made like women look weak or something, that there was a tennis player crying on the court. I think that was a lot of the criticism actually she got from some of the women's players were saying that it wasn't very professional. But I just thought it was just interesting because that's the other minutes, and I remember, I don't know if anybody else remembers that. But Elise Cornet kind of had a similar thing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, a couple women have cried on court, and I know Bouchard cried yesterday, I believe, in her match. I don't know why. I didn't watch the match or read about it, but I heard she was crying. But I think, especially in Panetta, she did suggest that maybe it was outside tennis. Although, like in her presser, I think she kind of laughed it off. But, I just think regardless of the reason, I think, a lot of the press and a lot of commentators and stuff, they want the gossip and they want to, badger her with questions. And I think especially if it's something outside tennis, I think you should respect them if they don't want to tell you and don't really badger them about it because it's clearly emotional and affecting them and hurting them. And I think it's great when we see those kind of emotions come out and you see their strength and how much they want it. And
yeah, I would say too that I think there's too much of that in the sports press in general. I mean, I think if a player, an athlete or a celebrity, or something goes out of their way to make a private issue, public in some way, like the Cincinnati Bengals player that his daughter got cancer and kind of, they made fundraisers and things out of that and made kind of a public thing. That's understandable, if that's within their choice, but I think there's too much in the sports media and in the media in general of trying to dig into people and cause the controversy and all that kind of thing. I just think it's silly because it's not related to their performance and it's not really our business. I just, being in this business, we're all journalists in this business, and I think definitely there's just kind of a difference between it's kind of a TMZ mindset of things and the other thing. I was talking to Courtney the other day about Simona Halep had a family member, something terrible happened to one of her family members, and that was put in some sort of like a little newsletter or something they send out with the daily tennis things. And I was just thinking to myself, I didn't really think something like that was appropriate. That she hadn't really gone out of her way to announce that, but I guess somebody had found a newspaper report or something in Romania and made it a thing. And it's just like, was that really relevant that if some family member that's not even related to her tennis career had a horrible accident? Was that really relevant? It's not. You know what I'm saying? Versus, I think, with, for example, Jack Sock, there was an ATP little listicle they did on him by his brother had some sort of a complication from a strep throat, and he was kind of touch and go for a while, and that affected Sock's mental stuff, and he was with his brother and everything. And that was different because, again, they making the point to make that a story and bring attention to that. And Sock, I believe, dedicated his win to his brother Eric.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't talk to him personally, but he did kind of favor my tweet and stuff, and I was kind of talking to him about that, where I was tweeting to him and best wishes to him because his brother almost died, I believe. So it was very hard for them, and I was very happy to hear that he turned around, and that has to be very difficult and to play and I know we're gonna get in Americans later, so I don't want to say too much about Jack Sock right now, but yeah. I think emotional stuff, life happens, and I think there has to be kind of a level of respect. And also, a lot of people, like you said, they get treated like they're weak, and I see that as strength when they're able to overcome something, whether it in their career or in their personal life, and fight for that win, and I think that just shows how strong they are.
Well, a lot of the
Yeah, man,
times, I believe that it's a lot of it is down to the tennis. I see a lot of players in the WTA, they get frustrated, and I think that builds on them emotionally. I'm speaking particularly about Indian Wells, but also going back to Dubai. I watched my favourite women's player, being a Muguruza, get very frustrated and actually reduced to tears after she lost Pliskova in Dubai, and I think it's because sometimes the tennis can really frustrate individuals, because if you look at Pliskova, she's got one of the biggest serves on the tour, and it's very frustrating to get into a service games only for Pliskova to whack a big serve and get through the game from 15-40 down or whatever situation it might be. And it's so, I mean, a lot of times personal stuff can come in and it can affect tennis players on the court, because they might be sportsmen and women, but they are human, and it affects everybody, just like it affects you if you're doing your job, because at the end of the day it is a job for them to play tennis.
Yeah, I mean, like last fall, I believe, in Beijing, Brandon Verdasco, I believe it was his grandfather, passed away, and he didn't hear about it until just before he was supposed to play his match. So he actually played. He lost in the first round, but he didn't necessarily play a bad match. And he did bring that up, I think, in press, that he didn't even know if he was going to play, but he decided to go ahead before, I guess, leaving to go to the funeral. But he would have pulled out had he won the match anyway. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
Good.
a lot of players can channel that emotion and still come out good at the event. I mean, a lot of people will remember Pete Sampras reduced to tears after his coach died on the court. He still came to beat Pat Rafter, and a lot of players can do that. They can channel their emotions and come through and win despite off-court issues or on-court issues even. So it's quite interesting to see how players handle their emotion, handle these situations on the court. I think it's the mental aspect of tennis is arguably what separates it from other sports so much, especially for me. When I play the game, it's I like playing tennis because of that feeling that you're alone, and it's much of a mental battle as it is a physical battle, and I really enjoy seeing how people respond to that and how they handle their emotions and how they handle their situations on court. I believe that's what makes the sport so great.
Absolutely. And then just kind of transitioning back to the American men, we'll talk about that, and then a little bit of a debate as well about Hawkeye and things. But a really good tournament, I think, for the American men overall. Isner managed to actually make it through the round of 16. He'll get a decent chance against Djokovic. You don't know what's going to happen there. He definitely seems to have broke his losing streak. He had a good win over Anderson. Anderson kind of faded late, didn't play very well in the second set. And then Steve Johnson made the third round, got to take on Burdick. basically playing at the home event for him. Of course, he went to USC, the California boy, and really, I think positive signs from him too this year. Two relatively comfortable matches against Granollers and Karlovic. Second set tower against Karlovic was a real spirited contest, but the crowd was all behind him, and of course he had a lot of his friends and family there from USC and everything like that, and he's definitely improving into be a top 30 player, kind of like Tomic this year, not super flashy, but consistent results, and it's nice to have somebody like that in your repertoire for Davis Cup or whatever it may be, to have that reliable top 30 kind of guy. Sock, really great showing from Zach Sock. He's coming off of a hip injury. He's won three set matches against very quality hardcourt opponents. He hasn't played anybody weak. I mean, Lou is not the real heavy weapons, but came back from 5-2 down in the first set, and then won sets 2 and 3, and then even, of course, the first set tiebreak for that matter. And then I guess Mueller, crowd was behind him again, and he willed himself into that third set tiebreak, worked his way back into the match, and then in that third set tiebreak, Mueller double faulted on match point, so Sock won that. And then in the third match against Batista Agut, RBA seemed to be dictating with his forehand for the first about set and a half, and then Sock just basically flipped the script. And I believe previously I saw a stat the other day, I think it was Nick Nemiroff that tweeted this, or it might have been Chris Skelton, but Sock only had, I think, 1 or 2 wins from a set down in his career, and he's already had 3 this tournament. And he's going to get better in the next round. I mean, that's not a likely win, but I think it's still incredible coming off of a hip injury, no less. He hasn't really had any movement issues. His forehand is great. His backhand seems better, and his fitness massively improved. I've been very familiar with Sock just from watching him here a lot in the States. Of course, he gets a lot of wild cards. You see him on TV and in person a lot of both the ATP and the Challenger events back in the day, becoming American. And his fitness is much, much better. Previously, to play those 3-set matches, especially the one against RBA yesterday in the hot sun in the afternoon match, he would have been wilted and cramping by the third set, kind of like Dimitrov used to be in a way. But it seems like he's really got his exercise and his diet and everything else under control. And he seems like a much more athletic player now. He's better at the net as well. I think playing doubles with Pospisil and having a lot of success in doubles has really helped his game with some of the net play and the serves and things like that. So in a way,
his mental strength as well is a lot better than it was in the past, and as well as his attitude on court. I think he carries himself a lot better now. He's not as I don't know how to explain it. Not as hot-headed. He's firing himself up in a positive manner. And in the past, he would have faded in probably all 3 of them matches that he's played against Lou, against Muller, and against Agut. He probably would have faded, but he said he's turned all the matches around and put in some really impressive performances.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say really, really inspired tennis, and I think the future can only get brighter. I mean, I don't know how well he's going to deal on clay, but I would say definitely this summer with more match play and being healthy and fit and kind of back into his regimen, he could definitely maybe win Atlanta or win Slam and one of the smaller events, and at least equal his Indian Wells performance in the Masters of Cincinnati and the Montreal, semis in BC or something like that. So he'll get plenty of opportunities, and he'll have this chance to get into the top 30, maybe even top 20.
I've predicted him to make the top 20 on Twitter, so I've got some boasting to do if that happens.
Well, there you go. And then the other American, of course, we'll mention is Donald Young. He did make the third round. He didn't really give Nadal too much of a test, but he did win a couple of rounds, and again, you can't really complain because still for him that's a good showing. He still probably had the best 2 months consistency in his career. I mean, you probably follow him closer than I do, Joe, but I would say the past 2 months he's been more consistent and just better all around. He seems like he's very comfortable on court. I mean, even against Nadal, even though he was losing pretty handily after it kind of got underway, he didn't lose control and start screaming and throwing his racket and going into just totally tanking. I mean, he still seemed composed and professional, and he still gave it his best out there. I don't really know what else you can do against a top 5 player.
It was a terrible match, though. I think the courts
serve. It was a bunch of breaks of serve in the first 7.
Yeah, but both players were struggling with the conditions. I don't think the courts in Indian Wells, you're not really allowing any players to play the peak level of tennis. And I mean,
I wouldn't say that. There's always Albert Ramos. To go on a tangent, but it's the Indian Wells courts are messed up when Federer is saying that they're too slow and the balls are hard to adjust to, and he's having to step forward in the court to hit the ball. He said that at a press conference last night. And then Albert Ramos and Federico Del Bonis are playing some of their best tennis. I don't know if you saw Ramos against Troike in the first round, and I can't remember who beat the second round, but he played Djokovic in the third round, and he probably played some of the best, individual shots and games of his life. He still lost to Djokovic, of course. He got a couple breaks of serve, and that topspin forehand was just like hitting the back of the line and pushing Djokovic about 6 steps behind it. It was like clay.
I think he beat. Was it Benetton in the?
Yeah, Benetton. It wasn't televised, so I don't remember it. But I mean, he was playing against Troike in the first round. I mean, Albert Ramos, who I think hasn't won a hardcourt match in like 8 months before this tournament. It's been like forever. He was pushing Troike about 7 steps behind the baseline, and Troike's just like, I can't do this anymore. He got broken like 4-all, I think, both sides. I mean, it was just incredible that basically a guy was playing a clay court approach tactically and technically, and then having success. And of course, we saw Schwartzman beat Janowicz as well. So we've seen a bunch of basic clay courters beat hardcourt players. It just seems like the courts are built for Nadal.
Well, Nadal wasn't playing that well against Young, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that I think it tends to favor the topspin forehand because they were showing a stat about RPMs.
With stock especially.
Yeah, Sock's forehand, which is just as spinny as Nadal's, a little bit different, but it's still just as much RPM. And they were saying he's having such success with that, and like I said, Ramos and Nadal and some of the others, even like RBA and stuff. It just seems like it definitely favors the topspin shot over the flat hitters.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. But so Courtney wanted to introduce a topic. I'll let her fire away.
All right. So here's the question, guys. During some of the matches this week, there have been a lot of bad calls. In the Gulbis match, it was mentioned by the commentators that with the installation of the challenge system, umpires are relying a little more on the players to challenge and not getting as involved. I mean, that's not true for all umpires, but it's certainly some have taken a back seat. Do you think umpires should get more involved as they typically would without the challenge system? Or do you believe do you believe it's okay to sort of take a back seat and leave it up to the players to become more proactive at challenging the calls?
Well,
Steen?
I'll take this if nobody else wants to. I mean, I would say, it really does depend on the umpire's relationship to the player and the personality of the player. There are some that will ask, even always ask. There's some that will look towards their bench. There's some that won't say anything at all and they'll just go by their gut. I think every player has a different personality, a different comfort level with that. There's some that will never trust the umpire, and there's some that will trust him every time. So I think that's a very variable situation. In terms of how the umpires behave, I've always been an advocate of the umpires that are more friendly about it, because I think the thing about Hawkeye is that all it's doing is confirming, something that happened. It's not really influencing the match in the sense of it's just confirming accuracy. So, I mean, I think everybody, win or lose, every player, every umpire, every fan would want every call to be made as correctly as possible to make it as fair to anybody. I mean, I don't think any of us advocate inaccurate calls as a means of making for a good tennis match. So with that in mind, I think whether it be the player, the challenge system, or the umpire, I think everybody, the line judge, whoever it needs to be, needs to endeavor to be as accurate as possible. And with that in mind, if that involves the umpire saying, that looked out to me, but I didn't feel comfortable overruling it, or something like that looked fine to me, or whatever, I think that's okay. I think they can still be wrong, but any of us can be wrong, and it's still within the player's discretion. But my opinion on it is that it's just a matter of everybody, I think, out there on the court should endeavor to have things be as accurately scored and resulted as possible, and it's unfortunate when it's not. Does anybody else disagree?
Yeah, this was supposed to be Joe and Niall.
I'll take this into a wider question then.
Okay.
In the Kokkinakis and Monaco match in the third set, Kokkinakis had match point. I think it was on his serve, or it was on Monaco's serve, but he had match point, and he won the point. The ball that he hit was out. The ball that Monaco hit was out. And neither Kokkinakis or Monaco had any challenges remaining. So it was match point, and then Mohamed Lehani was the umpire, and it was right underneath kind of his line of sight on the left-hand baseline on the corner there, and the ball was out. Monaco lost the match by any measure. They did a TV review on the screen, and they knew it was out. So Kokkinakis should have won the match then and there, but it ended up stretching on to the third set tiebreak. And the people were talking about that, saying, the challenge, I guess the rationale, and I agree with this, the rationale the players have a certain number of challenges so that they don't abuse the system. You can't just randomly challenge to try to interrupt the momentum of a match or delay to get an extra breath or whatever it may be. But on such a critical point, a match point, a set point, a break point maybe, do you really want it to be a situation like just happened where Kokkinakis potentially risk losing the match that he had actually won just because he didn't have any challenges, and the umpire chose not to overrule for whatever reason. And I'm thinking about, even if it doesn't happen very often, when it does happen, I would just say that, just like we've seen with other sports, like with the goal line review technology in the soccer, football, and the NFL, they've had goal line reviews and everything. It's just to say that anything like that, it needs to be either automatically reviewed if it's anywhere close, or you just need to have unlimited challenges where it doesn't matter the situation. If it's a match point or set point at least, anything should be challengeable by either player, no matter if they have any challenges remaining or not. Because I don't think it hurts to have a second look at it and take that 5 to 10 seconds. I mean, I would say that's what most players do anyway. If they have a challenge left, there's balls that'll be 6 feet out, but they'll still challenge just because why not? Even if their match point down, they're about to lose anyway. Why not try? So with that in mind, I just think they do. The ITF needs to look, and the ATP needs to look into changing that to either say you're going to have a mandatory review that's going to determine the result of match points or set points, or you're just going to say unlimited challenges so that the umpire or either of the players can order a video review if they deem it necessary. Because I don't think that's really influencing the flow of the match, and it's not really something that can be abused. Because if you're match point or set point down, that's a rare occurrence, and it's already a tense moment. So it's not like that's going to interrupt the flow versus somebody go 15-30 down and just start randomly challenging to try and interrupt the other guy's rhythm.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I do think that there should be some kind of review for match point or set point, stuff like that, because I think that really does affect, the match in such a huge way. And if you're going to have a challenge system, if you're going to have that in place, I think that's important to use that, regardless if the players have lost their challenges. But also, if it's kind of, a lot of people say, players should have accountability of keeping their challenges, whatever. But this is the second time I keep mentioning bull riding. But in bull riding, they have a challenge system where they have a button where the riders push, but every time they challenge, it costs them $500.
Oh yeah, well, that's interesting.
So I think if they lose their challenges and they have no more, maybe they could buy it for the really big.
Maybe that would almost disadvantage the poor players. Djokovic could challenge 12 times a game, and not care, and then he would never be able to use a challenge. You know, that's
That's very true. That's. I mean, I would rather them not do that. I would rather them do the traditional, review, like you said. But I just kind of brought that up that they do have to charge all that money just to have that review, and I think that's crazy. And also, I didn't mean to have it $500, but I just meant, you know, some kind of.
I would just say that it's just better for matches when it seems like things have been done fairly to everybody, and it's better for matches when it feels like the umpire and the players are getting along. I've never been an advocate of a lot of conflict between the umpires and the players. That just doesn't make for a very enjoyable match by any means. But anyway, kind of going back to the men's, I still see Djokovic as winning the tournament. He hasn't really had any problems. I mean, Ramos gave him a little bit of a trouble, but that was basically because of the style of play more than anything else. And I don't see Nadal really being at enough level to beat Djokovic right now. So, yeah, I would go ahead and put Djokovic through over Tomic, and then Murray, of course, already beat Manarino, and Lopez upset Nishikori. I thought it was a little bit of a disappointment for Nishikori. He never really seemed to play well in any of his matches. Maybe it was just hangover from Davis Cup or not liking the conditions or whatever it may be. But even though he won 2 matches, Verdasco gave him problems, and then Harrison played a relatively decent match. And you know, I would just say a little bit of disappointment for him, but he should be happy to eventually actually get back on clay in a way, because he actually had some good success there. I think he won the title in Barcelona, and then he of course made that final in Madrid. So it'll be interesting to see how he can repeat that on clay. And then again, very good tournament for Lopez. His slice forehand combo just really seems to be doing a lot of damage late in his career, and is giving opponents a lot of problems. And then also just a slight touch on that Marty Fish Ryan Harrison match. Really low quality match, but Fish he's actually flew out of Miami next week and kind of doing the same thing he did last time, where he plays one match and then decides he's going to pull out of more tournaments. I don't even know what's going on there, but all the same, Fish played a lot better than I think many people, including myself, expected, and Harrison played worse. So it kind of made for a very messy match, but they went back and forth, and Harrison just kind of gutted it out in the end. Fish went up a break and then lost them, I think, in the third set, and that was kind of that. But anyway, I would say definitely Djokovic through. Murray should beat Lopez, but you never know. Murray's looked relatively comfortable so far, so I wouldn't really worry too much about him. And then Murray Djokovic should be good. And then Robredo, another player like Hassa, and you know, we talked about it, kind of has found his form in the desert. Really hasn't had a good season, but he got past Golubev in a close match, and then of course he got past Dimitrov. So I don't think he's going to beat Raonic, but still a good tournament for him to regain some form and get back through. Simone, good tournament for him as well. He hasn't faced too much competition, but again, relatively comfortable. Kudos to Michael Barrere. Last year of his career, and he's reached the third round of a Masters tournament. I don't know if he's done it. I don't think he's done it once before. I don't think he's ever done it before, to be honest with you. And at 32 or 33 years old, you know, doing that was remarkable. And it's kind of, I don't know if I've ever seen a journeyman player to have the best result of his career, the best year of his career last year. I mean, it's not somebody that's ever been a top 40 player, but all the same, he's had a really good year. Simone Nadal looks quality. I still think Nadal gets through with these courts, and then
I think Simone will win.
Nadal leads currently a break up in the first set, 3-1.
Oh, that's going on already, is it? And Nadal's.
Do you still stand by your prediction at 3-1 2015?
I haven't been following the matches because of the podcast. So.
Fell asleep and just woke up now and went, "Oh, Simone."
I'll stick with my predictions. Simone in 3 sets. Then I don't like. I don't like.
Joe never gives up.
I don't like going.
Is that a reality?
Well, in my draw challenge, I picked Simone to make the semi-finals, so I can't just give up so easily.
Well, I mean, I like Simone, so I would love to see him continue to do well.
Well, Nadal's got a break point for 4-1 now.
Oh no. And then,
Yeah, I agree. I picked Nadal and Djokovic in the final and Djokovic to win, and I'm sticking with that.
yeah, I mean, Rosal and Bardic. Bardic beat Rosal. Another quality tournament for Bardic. He hasn't dropped a set. I don't know if
He has dropped a set. He dropped a set to Russell.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, he did drop a set to Rosal. Okay. Yeah, I mean, either way, a good turn for him. Rosal, another player. He was on a 5 or 6 match losing streak. Randomly beats Cleveland and Hassa in 2 close 3-set matches. He actually won a breakdown against Cleveland the third, and then came back and won the next 4 games to win the match. And then against Hassa, 3rd set tiebreak win. So same thing there. 2 quality wins, all the same. Federer, I still think, gets through. Federer played very well against Seppi, a player who, of course, gave him problems in Australia and beat him, even though Seppi didn't play near as well this time. So I would just say Federer through, and then if Nadal gets through, I still think Federer over Nadal, just because I just don't feel like Rafa's up to that level again. Even though it's a bad matchup for Federer and these courts favor Nadal, I don't get the feeling from watching Nadal play that his actual quality of ball striking and everything like that is really up to the par of the Federer, Djokovic, and Murray level, which seems to be kind of the top 3 right now.
Well, of course, Nadal would say he was the underdog in that match.
Well, I mean, I think he is the underdog in the sense of on a hard court.
I know. I was making a joke because he always says he's the underdog in every match.
I mean, I think it'll be interesting. I think we're going to have a bunch of interesting matchups in that regard. I think, Raonic and Nadal is going to be really interesting. Djokovic and Murray could be very interesting. Federer and Bardic, Federer and Nadal could both be very interesting. Bardic and Nadal, again, if we get that, a rematch of Australia would be very interesting. And I think Nadal might have a better chance in that one just because of the courts, I think, favor him over the ones in Melbourne. But at the end of the day, I still think Djokovic is the top of the pack. And, once again, it's like Indian Wells has produced a tournament that's going to give us the big 4, the big 5 in the semis, and then probably a 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3 kind of final. I don't know if anybody else disagrees with that, but
Djokovic over Federer for me. I said it from the start of the tournament. They're just the 2 best at the moment, and it's hard to see Djokovic slipping up before the final for starters. I mean, some may say, Murray might meet him in the semi-finals, but let's be honest, Djokovic has won how many last meetings again? He's won a lot in a row. And Murray's
it's been a while for sure, and especially on that type of a surface. I mean, Miami has always kind of favored Murray better than Indian Wells has in that regard. So I still think that I still look forward to it. But I think probably a repeat of the Australian Open if we see that. It should be straight sets or maybe a 3rd set, but it should be something like 6-4, 7-5, something like that. But either way, it's been really interesting. Marion Cilic came back and lost to Monaco, so it might be a while before we see him back. And I think I'll be looking forward to that. Del Potro played doubles Indian Wells, and then I think he lost in the 1st round.
He didn't play. They pulled out.
No, he didn't. I thought he only played doubles.
No, they were down to it, but then they pulled out. But apparently, it was due to Cilic, not Del Potro. So it was kind of inevitable that they weren't going to play, though. You can see it coming from a mile off. So
yeah, I mean, that's kind of strange when 2 injured players get together to play doubles, but
yeah,
all the same. But it'll be interesting, and we'll be back next week for a recap of the rest of the way, and then of course a preview of the Miami Masters. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for Niall and Joe, and of course Courtney for all doing a wonderful job and
Thank you.
leading the way with the Courtside Videocast. So thank you everybody, and enjoy watching the tennis the rest of the way from Indian Wells, and we look forward to catching up with you next week. So thank you very much everybody, and have a great weekend.